Hello and Happy New Year and welcome to Pet Watch, a monthly program about the Williamson County Animal Center. I'm Debbie Sims and I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator for the shelter, and my guest today is our Director, Ondrea Johnson. Hi, Ondrea.
Hey, good morning.
Ondrea came on board last February, right?
Yep.
And so you've had almost a full year at the
Yes.
shelter. We talked earlier when you first came on board. I asked you what your goal was for your overall goal for the animal center, because I know you're passionate about it, and that's how you ended up in this position, was your passion.
Yep.
Tell me what is that goal, and how do you feel about it now?
So my goal was that the animal center would be the first place that people come when they are looking to add a pet to their home. And I feel like we've done a pretty good job of that this year, Debbie. You know, I always tell the staff, as you know, that we want people to come to us before they go to a breeder or before they go to a pet store. And, you know, one of the ways that we've done that is we've marketed our pets a little bit differently on social media this year. We take a lot of the pets that we might have normally sent to rescue, and we allow people to apply, do applications through the shelter to actually adopt those animals directly through us. And that's a little bit different process for the purebred animals that we get in that might need a special type of home. German Shepherds come to mind. We worked pretty closely this year with German Shepherd Rescue to actually place those dogs through the shelter rather than sending them to rescue. And it's been a great partnership because rescues are often begging for fosters, and most rescues around here are foster based, so they can only pull animals as they have fosters available. So German Shepherd Rescue is a good example of a rescue that has worked with us to help us evaluate some of the applications that we've gotten, determine what would be the appropriate home for a German Shepherd, and then we've been able to place them through the shelter.
And that was another goal you had, which was to enhance the relationship we have with the rescue groups.
Right.
So a German Shepherd rescue group, do they have a knowledge of the breed and
Right.
what the breed's drive is, and what
Absolutely.
kind of, do they evaluate them to see if they know what commands they know, and then?
Yes, we've had actually had German Shepherd Rescue, and that's just one of the rescues we've worked with. I mean, we've worked with several this year, but German Shepherd Rescue is a good example that they have come out and evaluated the dogs for us, and dogs that they feel need a really an extra time in a foster to train to be adoptable in a home, they've actually pulled and taken into an experienced foster home where the dog can get training and be made ready for adoption. But the ones that they feel are appropriate to go straight into a home, they've sort of given us some pointers on this dog needs a fence, or this dog needs to be an only dog, or things like that. And then we've been able to place those dogs through the shelter. So it's been a great partnership.
That's great. And there are groups for lots of different breeds out there.
Absolutely. There are lots of different breed rescues. You know, Golden Retriever Rescue is another one we work closely with. There are all breed rescues that, like Snooty Giggles is the one that I turn to first. They do a lot of seniors, they do a lot of special needs animals. So one animal that comes to mind is a dog that you'll remember, Blue, who needed sort of a special home because he didn't really care for cats, and he was sort of picky about his home environment, and they were able to take him and put him in foster, and he actually likes cats now, I'll report, and he's done really well in foster. So they've taken some special cases for us as well. So to me, that's the role that rescue, and how rescue can partner so well with the shelter, because they are able to give a little bit more in-home attention to certain behaviors or certain medical needs, specialty foods or things like that, that are really difficult for us to address at the shelter, and at the same time sort of give a dog a chance that really might not get a great chance in the shelter.
Yeah, and you mentioned Blue, and another dog that comes to mind as a special case this year was Wendy.
Yes.
A little smaller golden mix,
Yep.
maybe, who came in paralyzed.
She sure did.
And tell us about what happened to Wendy and how you worked with different partners in the community.
Oh, Wendy was a great dog, and everyone fell in love with her. She came in completely paralyzed in the back legs and basically beyond her front shoulders. She had no movement, no control of her bladder or bowels, and was going to really have a shortened life and lots of complications as a result of that. And she was such a wonderful dog, though. Her personality was so sweet. And when you would take her outside at the shelter, I don't know if you remember, she would see other dogs and she would just run as fast as her little front legs would drag her trying to play with the other dogs. So we took her to an event downtown Franklin and were able to kick off a fundraising effort to get Wendy a surgery. And Dr. Fly over in Nolensville was able to perform the surgery for her. Friends of Williamson County Animal Center, which is a great partner with us, they provided a lot of the funding. They did a special fundraising effort through their organization to fund her surgery. And Wendy is now living in a home with actually one of the vet techs adopted her, who was with Dr. Fly and was sort of with her through that whole process, and she ended up adopting Wendy, and she's living a great life. She's able to run, she's completely mobile, she's able to eliminate on her own without any help from anyone expressing her or any catheters or anything. So Wendy has a great life, and that was a really heartwarming story.
I know. And that's a kind of specialty surgery that we sometimes turn to the community and our support group, the Friends of group, to help us with, because it's not a common surgery. It's not a surgery that every vet was willing to undertake.
Right.
So those partnerships are so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, that's one thing I think that really sets us apart from when people think of a county shelter. You know, we are able, through those partnerships in the community, to do a lot of things that a lot of community shelters don't have the opportunity to do. Not that they wouldn't want to do those things, but I think that makes our shelter really a first-class shelter, and a place that's happy to work and a place that's happy to visit and volunteer. And so it really is a heartwarming thing when we're able to do things like that for animals.
And another side of the community relationships that I see as an outreach coordinator is corporations call me all the time. We'd like to do something for the shelter. We have a service day and we'd like to bring 6 people over. Can we work in your outside? What do you need us to do? You know, we've had great partnerships with Mars in our feeding project, and then they send their employees over to help us with things a couple of times a year. We've had many sponsored weekends, individuals and corporations sponsoring all the adoption fees for a weekend. And Tales of the Trail sponsored some adoptions. So those things are so important. And just this past December, we did Presents for Pets, and we had 5 offices in the community, 5 companies call and want us to come out and bring a bin and put it in their office, and they've collected items for us. So it works both ways.
Right,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sometimes it's medical help, sometimes it's supplies, sometimes it's other things, monetary donations that are used for special treatments. Because sometimes we need to send one of our animals to a location for special treatment. So it's good for us to have some extra funds to do that. Let's talk about the year, and we talked about a few highlights, but we ended the year on a great note. And in 2018, we maintained the same save rate we did last year, 96.8.
Right.
So what do you attribute the ability to continue to maintain that rate?
Well, I can't say enough about our volunteers. Our volunteers really contribute to that. And the way that volunteers make a difference with that is that when we get cats or dogs that are struggling in the kennel environment, and a lot of animals will come in and they don't do well in the shelter just because it's a stressful environment for the animals. They're not used to living, with a lot of noise and strange people walking past their kennels every day and having to interact at the level that they have to interact when they're at the shelter. So our volunteers are really able to work with some that might not otherwise ever be adoptable. One animal that comes to mind is a cat that we had, Piper, and Piper just really struggled in the shelter, and a collaboration of volunteers, they came together and kind of came up with a solution to contain Piper in a smaller room than where we originally had her, and they went in and sat with her every day, and people who kind of know a little bit about cats who were able to go and work with her, and Piper ended up being adopted, not only being adopted, but I think she's a pretty adored family member, and we get updates and pictures on her all the time, and that was a cat that truly we didn't know if we were going to be able to place her in a home when she first came in, because she was not no one could even touch her. So that's an example of how the volunteers really help these animals along, and we couldn't do that without them. The other thing, obviously, is that, some of these animals, I mean, the little puppy, Lemmy, that was found in the Tractor Supply parking lot and had been hit by a car, and she had a broken leg, her growth plate was fractured, and because of a local veterinarian who was willing to come in and amputate her leg, and then our shelter vet, Dr. Green, kept her there in the shelter vet office for a while and rehabilitated her, and then she was able to go into a home with children, and she got a great home. And those are things that, animals that might have otherwise been euthanized if it weren't for the surrounding community, whether it be local veterinarians or our volunteers or financing that's donated and whatnot. Those things aren't really possible for shelters that don't have that level of support.
And the 98.6% save rate really starts to mean something when you see that 3,929 animals came through the shelter, almost 4,000. We had of the 1,055 dogs were adopted and 1,478 cats were adopted. That's amazing.
That's a huge number. There are times of the year, as you know, Debbie, where we feel like we're drowning in cats. That's probably my top goal for the coming year, is to, the easiest thing that anyone can do for their cat or their dog is to microchip them. We return almost 100% of the animals that come through that are microchipped. As long as that microchip information is updated and leads back to a person, we are always able to reunite that animal with their owner. And it's not expensive. I think we charge $15
when we do the clinics, right?
So once a month, we have a rabies clinic at the shelter, and you can come and have your animal rabies vaccinated and microchipped, and the microchip is only $15, and it's such an easy way to make sure that you maintain. And actually, Debbie, I don't even know if you know that we have had someone sponsor the microchips for this month's clinic. So a certain number of the microchips this month will even be free, because one of our local volunteers has agreed to sponsor those for this month's clinic. So there's no better way to make sure that you're reunited with your pet. But then also spaying and neutering is so important. I think that people, if they saw the numbers of cats in particular that we deal with in the summer, and the numbers of litters of kittens that are brought to us that are born under people's homes or under their steps or in their sheds, totally unplanned and unwanted litters, and it would be so easy to avoid having that issue if people would spay and neuter. And that is a great opening for a program that we've implemented, which is the Community Cat Program. And if there are cats in the community that are not owned by anyone, but you know that various people in your neighborhood put out food for this cat, but you don't want to necessarily take on the responsibility of taking care of that cat day in and day out, but the cat is well taken care of. If you trap that cat or bring that cat to us as part of the Community Cat Program, we will spay and neuter that cat for free. It'll get a rabies vaccination. It'll be microchipped. We will tip its ear. Ear tipping is while the cat is under anesthesia, we take just the tip of the ear off so that when someone sees that cat out in the community, they know that cat has been vetted and is part of the community cat program and is monitored so that you don't have to bother the cat. It can remain in its outdoor home, remain safe and well cared for, but it will not produce more kittens, which is the best thing that you can do for the health of the cat and for the health of the community.
And you talked about the squeeze it puts on the shelter. We had 3 months last, I believe, June, July, and August that were close to 300 kittens a month.
Yes.
Came in.
In June, we had 370 cats that we took in that month. And that is, really probably is going to be a goal of mine for the next several years. But we have to get this explosion under control because that's going to be a big part of maintaining our save rate.
Right.
But it's really not only the save rate, it's the conditions that the cats have to live in. They come in and they're stressed and we have to send them out to foster care, and it puts a burden on not only the shelter staff, it puts a burden on the community to try to place that number of cats and kittens throughout the summer.
Yeah.
So
we had about 40 litters in people's homes.
Yeah.
And these kittens don't have a mother cat with them. For the
Right.
99% of them
Right.
don't. Because people see the kittens, grab them up, which they think they're doing a great thing, but they need to call the shelter and say, I see this litter of kittens, what should I do?
Yes.
Because if we can trap mom, then we can just pick the kittens up and they can stay together.
Yes.
But if you grab the kittens and bring them to us, which is the typical scenario, they're vulnerable. Some can die on the way to the shelter.
Yep.
They're not warm. They're not fed. They're not vetted till they get there. And then we have to bottle feed them
Right.
every 2 hours.
Yes.
These
So
people-
somebody's having to get up all night,
Right,
like with an
right.
infant.
Right. And it would be infinitely better if they just if we had a better response in the community to spaying and neutering. So I hope people will listen and
Right.
say, this cat that I see, if you, my thinking is if you see a cat every day and you're giving it food, take the extra step and take a little bit of more responsibility to say, I'm feeding this cat and I'd like to get it spayed and neutered.
Right.
Because you really are sort of taking ownership of it.
Absolutely. And there's really no cost to the individual to bring the cat to us to have that done. It's really just a matter of time of bringing the cat in. And really with the cats, with kittens, what people don't realize is when you bring us the kittens, then the cat pretty much immediately goes back into heat and she's going to have
Right.
another litter of
Right.
kittens. And then you'll be right back where you started. So to bring the mother cat with the kittens, it's not that difficult to trap the mom if you have the kittens.
Right.
So we would love for people to call us and find out how to do that when you see a litter of kittens. And that's going to be around the corner, Debbie. As you know, we'll
know.
start getting kittens in March.
I know.
So it won't be long.
I hope and pray each year that there'll be a little fewer number of kittens coming in, but haven't seen it let up yet. So
No.
it's an education process, and it's something that people in the community just need to think about.
Absolutely.
Beyond their own house, what's happening out in the community and the neighborhood. So, and we all know, we get calls all the time. These cats, and I've been feeding them, and but have you spayed or neutered? That's
Right.
the question. Because if there's 7 there this year, they all have multiple litters of 7.
Right.
The numbers just become astronomical. What you're caring for hundreds and thousands of pets in just a few
Absolutely.
years.
Absolutely.
And they're vulnerable. It's not good for kittens to be born in the wild.
Right.
And if they're not picked up, they won't survive.
Right.
So it's a win-win to spay neuter and just help out the community. 'Cause
Absolutely.
we don't need that many strays. And speaking of microchips, even family pets, we only returned 52 cats to their owner last year of 2,300.
Yeah.
52. So cats, even more than dogs, need to be microchipped, especially if
Oh,
they go
yes,
outside.
absolutely.
And cats look alike. I can't tell you how many times somebody said, I'm looking for my orange tabby. Well, there's probably 10 in
Right.
in our building that they need to go look at. So
Right.
microchip.
Absolutely. Yeah, cats, I would say, well, it's important for both cats and dogs, but
Right.
it's probably more important for cats because, like you said, I mean, nationally, less than 3% of cats are returned to their owners through shelters. And that's about what our average is as well. I think our average is 3%. So,
Yeah. If it has a microchip, we will find you.
absolutely.
And you will not be having to come over there, put your cat's picture on all the signs in your neighborhood. You won't have to go on Facebook
Right.
because if we get it, we will call you.
Absolutely.
And it's a sort of a foolproof method.
Absolutely.
Because cats don't wear collars either.
Right.
Usually with IDs on them. So I encourage people to come out, and we do it once a month, and then we do some more rabies microchip clinics in the community. So
Right.
it's very important. Now this year we did a couple of new things. Speaking of cats, we had a Cinco de Mayo celebration in May, and we're going to do that again this year on May the 4th. Sometimes all of our events seem to evolve around dogs, and the Cinco de Mayo was a lot of fun. Yeah, until the storm came in,
Yes.
if you'll remember. But we had a cat expert there. We have cat vendors, and there is a specific community of people who really care about cats.
Absolutely. And, the cat volunteers and our people at the shelter who are sort of more cat focused, they amaze me with the knowledge that they have, because I have cats, as everybody knows, but I always say my cats sort of have me, because I just put out food and open the door and let them in and out whenever they ask for it. So there are a lot of things to know about cats. Cats are trainable. I have seen videos that the volunteers have shown me of cats that have been trained to do just about everything imaginable. We have a volunteer at the shelter who has clicker trained some of our cats to give high fives and sit and all kinds of things. So cats they have a whole other dimension than what a lot of people realize. And it's fun to watch people who really know about cats and
It
understand.
It's fun, and there are a lot of cat products out there that people need to think about, scratching posts and
Right.
local vendors who know things about cats that provide specific toys for cats. So I thought that was fun to have that Cinco de Mayo celebration and focus on our cats once in a while. And back in February, we did cuddlegrams, where we sold companies Valentines called cuddlegrams, and we went out with cats or dogs, whatever we had handy, cats
Right.
or puppies, and we went out and visited their offices. We're going to do that again in February. And we did the pup meetup in downtown Franklin.
That was fun.
That was fun. That was where everybody got to meet Wendy.
Yep.
She was in a wagon at that time, and
She was.
And then we had a great event called the Bark and Splash Bash in the pool at the Longview Center. We did that with the Parks and Rec Department, and we hope to do that again this September too.
That was a huge hit.
Yeah, and one of the things when we got inundated at the shelter was we implemented a policy that to surrender your family pet, you need to make an appointment.
Yes.
Did that have any impact on the shelter?
Absolutely. That program was one that we sort of came to by necessity. A lot of area shelters around us had already implemented that, but we sort of did it reluctantly because we got into a desperate situation where we didn't have a place to house the cats. But it worked so well and was so in the best interest of the animals that we ended up implementing it for dogs as well. And the reason that we asked the public to do that is because, we want to take your animal at a time when we have the space and the staffing to humanely house that animal for you and give it the best chance that we can to be adopted as quickly as possible. So, all we do is we ask for you to make an appointment. Usually those appointments are about 2 weeks out from the date that you call. So it's not a really long period of time. Usually most people can accommodate an extra couple of weeks. Where we get into a lot of people who are moving and can't take their pet,
Right.
they'll wait until the day the moving truck rolls in because they're trying to, wait till the last minute
Right.
to have to say goodbye, and we understand that. But if you would make a plan for your animal in advance, when you're making those moving plans,
Right.
make plans for the pet as well. That helps us and it helps the pet really.
Yeah. We're running out of time. I didn't even get to throw in that our county is committed now to building a new animal center. We hope to turn some dirt on that, begin the process in early part of this year.
Yes.
So that's going to be exciting. I know you have a lot of great ideas about that. We'll have to have you back to talk about it.
Okay.
But we're just, I know you are so excited that the county's committed to that. We've outgrown our building. We've managed for years to keep dealing with a larger number of animals coming in due to population growth. So we also will be having our first annual fundraiser called a Possum Gala. And I wanted people to mark their calendars for March 7th. You'll hear more about that later. It'll be at a local venue, and it'll be a lot of fun. We'll be hosted by our Friends of group and sponsored by a number of local businesses. So keep watching for that. I also want everyone to know that we still need volunteers. We love new volunteers. And our first orientation of the new year will be Wednesday, January 9th at 6 o'clock at the Franklin Rec Center. And you can register online for that. We will be having our January rabies and microchip clinic Saturday, January 26th from 9 to 11 at the shelter. Rabies shots are $10, chips are $15, and it's open to the public. We'll be closed Monday, January 21st for a county holiday. So we'd love for you to think of the shelter as your first place to go when you want to adopt a pet. And Ondrea, thank you for being with us and the great job that you're doing at the shelter. We're moving forward with exciting things coming up in 2019. I hope that you'll come by the shelter this year. If you've never visited us, we'll love to give you a quick tour, and that you will adopt a pet from us and be so happy to provide you with one if you want to come over. We have a number of cats and dogs, and all Williamson County residents are invited to come by and see what our county shelter is all about. And I hope to see you there in 2019.